Here we go. Well, welcome everybody. I first, of course, want to thank all of our sponsors, Volvo, ASICS, Electrolyte. I know I'm missing a bunch, and especially one of our great benefactors is our benefits is we have Evolution Physical Therapy and Fitness. And one of the people from a physical therapist from that group, and they think they have like 3 or 4 locations around town now, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, South Bay, and out somewhere around Culver City where I've been. I'm not sure what you call that area. And so you can always, wherever you are, you can find an Evolution Physical Therapy. And as it says on her sweatshirt, evolve. So with that, I'm going to kick the ball over to Kathleen, and here we go. All about physical therapy and you guys.
Great. Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen. I am our clinical director at Evolution Physical Therapy South Bay in Hawthorne. As David mentioned, we have clinics in Beverly Hills, Brentwood, Santa Monica, Playa Vista, Irvine. And then in the new year, we are opening a clinic in like West Hollywood, Fairfax as well. I have come to a bunch of the Roadrunners events. If you remember Michael Herrera, he moved to Denver to open a clinic for us in Colorado. So I took over as the Michael Herrera for Evolution and LA Roadrunners. Today, I'm going to take you through a battery of tests that we feel like we put together, and we feel like they're a really good predictive tool to kind of self-assess and see where you're at in terms of your strength, your stability, and your mobility. Now, there's no real way that we can entirely prevent injury or 100% predict injury, but I'm going to take you through these tests and I'll show you what you should be looking for. And I want you, if you have the space, to try to self-assess as we go along. And if you're noticing big differences side to side, or something feels really hard or not attainable, it's probably a sign that that's something that you should work on. I'll try to provide maybe 1 or 2 things that you can do at home. But if you're noticing bigger trends, or you're having an existing pain or injury with walking or running, definitely makes sense to contact me, and we can kind of get you set up for maybe a more thorough evaluation. I'll go through the whole assessment first, and then there'll be an opportunity to ask questions, potentially on the way, and if not, that definitely at the end, okay? I'm going to drop now this blog, I think was in the email that was sent out, but I'm going to drop it in the chat. I think it's helpful to reference this kind of as we go along. Why can I not find the chat?
Maybe under the 3 buttons where it says more.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So this that I just sent has kind of all the tests that we're about to go through, okay? So the first one, and I'm going to show you what this looks like and we'll kind of talk as we go, is called toe yoga. So I'm going to show you what that is, and I will explain why it's important as we go. So we should be able to place our big toe down on the ground while we lift our other 4 toes up, and then reverse it. So 4 toes down, big toes lift up, and ideally we can alternate pretty nicely back and forth. So I want everyone to try this and see if you're able to do this. Now, what does this look at? So we have these tiny muscles that sit in the bottom of our feet. They're called our foot intrinsics. They play a role in our foot stability and our control. So when our foot hits the ground, these muscles work to help us absorb shock and to be able to push off. They help support the calf and the plantar fascia. So if we're not able to isolate that big toe or move our toes, what that tells us is that there's maybe not the best communication happening between our brain and the nerves that innervate those muscles. And the good thing is, the more we work on this, it will get better. I would say most people that come into my office, if I have them try this, many, if not most, can't do this right away. And I think that largely comes because we spend a lot of our time in shoes. So way back, we used to be barefoot, and we used to have to be able to use our feet and those muscles to understand what was happening underneath us on the ground, because we were rocks and things like that. Now we're in shoes, which is not a bad thing, but those muscles don't have to work as often. So the more you work on this at home, I'll tell people, when you're sitting in front of the TV, just try to wiggle your toes. When you're brushing your teeth, that might be like too much multitasking, but easy, like you're boiling water or you're cooking dinner, try to move your toes. And the more you do this, the easier it will get. In terms of exercises, the only exercise for this is just to do toe yoga.
What?
Right. Your next thing on that list is our knee to wall test. So this looks at our ankle mobility. So if you have a wall near you, you're going to line your toes just at the base of the wall, and you're going to try to lunge and see if your knee can tap the wall. Now, at a minimum for running, I want to see that you can get knee to wall, which means your knee gets kind of basically in line with the end of your toes. For walking, we actually need more dorsiflexion, which is what this is. So if you're a walker, what you'll do, okay, if I'm able to tap here, I want you to try to slide your foot back a little bit and then see if you're able to tap your knee to the wall there. Then we'll slide our foot back a little bit more and see if we can tap our knee to the wall there. The test ends when that heel lifts up off the ground. So be honest with yourself. As soon as you start to feel that heel pop, that's where the test ends. And then what I'll have you do right now is try to compare that side to side. So, okay, on my left side, you can actually measure if you want to see numbers, but that's about like 3 fingers wide. Let's see, or let's up my right side. On my left side, let's see how that compares. So I'm able to get my knee to the wall there. There. All right, so I went a little bit further there, I think. It's like 4 fingers. So that just tells me that whether it's my right ankle or my right calf, something on my right side is a little bit tighter. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I might just want to do a little mobility on that side. Things to look for or pay attention to that are kind of cheats with this test. So if we go to lunge our knee to the wall and our knee is coming way inside that big toe, like that, and you kind of see that arch kind of rolls in, that's not really what we want. So when you go to do this, I want you to think about your knee should lunge and stay over like our second and third toes. And then the other cutoff is just when that heel pops off. So ankle dorsiflexion is that angle. The reason why that's important is because when our foot strikes the ground, our knee needs to be able to translate forward. And that helps us absorb shock and kind of cushions the impact. So if we don't have enough mobility there, it's going to impact the kind of elastic energy that we need for running. And for running specifically, if we think about our optimal running gait, it's almost like a rubber band. We like pull tension and then it's a passive sling through in a perfect world. If our ankle is really blocked or limited, it's gonna impact how much shock we can absorb, but it's also going to impact the amount of like that rubber band kind of propulsion forward. It's going to impact the kinetic energy in that running cycle. For walking, it's important because we're gonna hit with our heel first, and we need more dorsiflexion just to get into that heel strike position. So like I said, we need a little bit less for running. I think the big thing with a lot of these tests is just like paying attention side to side. So some of them will have actual cutoffs, and obviously we want to make sure that we are hitting those numbers on both sides. But it's especially important to note, okay, if I notice I'm not even able to get my knee over or like, towards my big toe on one side, but I have a ton of range of motion on the other side, I should probably work on my ankle range of motion on the right side. So I'm going to show you one thing that I really like for this. We can do calf stretching because our calf, if that's super tight, that can limit how much dorsiflexion, that can limit that motion. But we can also work on the joint. So if we can get into this kneeling position, we will, but I will show you a modification if you can't. So our hand is going to support our arch, and we're going to lunge the knee over the second and third toe. So the hand is there at the arch just to prevent us from rolling in, because that just doesn't force us to actually move through that ankle joint. So we'll kind of rock back and forth, seeing if we can get a little more motion each time. If this kneeling position is uncomfortable for you or limited for some reason, we can do the same thing. You can prop your foot on a step. So in this case, we're probably not going to support the arch, but we're going to keep the heel down, and we're going to lunge forward, directing the knee over the second and third toes, the middle of the foot. We have 6 tests, so maybe between like every 2, I'll open up and see if anyone has any questions about those specific ones. Feel free to throw those questions in the chat. No questions. Okay. So the next one on that handout is our lateral step down test. So I think in the email that went out, it said if you have a step nearby, great. If you don't, that's okay. That's really just so you can self-assess on this. So our lateral step down test, it looks at our hip stability, our ankle stability, and if you're able to get your knee and load your knee over your ankle. It's kind of great because it kind of screens to see all the way hip down to foot. It's kind of a pretty nice all-encompassing test, and it gets us a really good picture of our single leg stability. So I'm going to show you first, and then I'm going to share my screen because we'll look at our screening criteria. So we're going to start up on the step, hands around your hips. We're going to bend hip and knee, tap your heel down on the ground and come back up. And we don't want to be offloading. You're really just tapping heel straight down and coming back up. So I'm going to show you some things that we're looking for, okay? So, and I'll share my screen because there's a kind of grading criteria with each of these things. So we look for compensations or signs of instability. One would be using your arms a lot for balance. One would be leaning your trunk a lot, because that way we're trying to, okay, I'm just going to keep my weight over this leg. The other thing we'll look at is, does this opposite hip drop to get there? Or are you able to keep your pelvis, your hips nice and level throughout? The other thing that we'll screen for is any excess motion at the knee. So any rotation in here. And then the last thing is the person able to tap without offloading, or do they have to tap, stabilize, and come back up? So can we tap and come back up? So let me share my screen and I'll kind of explain why we look at this. Share screen. Shoot. So can everyone see this chart? Yes. So this chart kind of just lays out everything I went through. There's a scoring criteria. So maybe if a time later and you have a step at home or even like a step to enter your house, see if you can take yourself through this and grade yourself on it. The arm strategy, taking your hand off your waist. Trunk lean, we talked about that trunk lean. Pelvis is just, does your hips stay level? The knee position section, we basically grade it, okay, if the knee caves in, does it go like just to where the big toe is? Or does it cave in past the arch, like past the big toe? And then the steady stance is just, okay, are you able to stay on that leg and just tap without shifting? Then you can add those up and based on that score, get an idea of where you land in that good, average, or poor. If we think about running, it's a series of single leg squats, right? We're never on two legs. We're never on two legs. We're always on one leg. So this is important for walking and running. For running specifically, it gives us a good picture. Okay, what happens, if we're not able to do this with good quality for 10 reps, what does our single leg stability look like when we're 10 miles into a race? So we should be really solid here and we should be able to keep our trunk aligned, keep our hips level. Otherwise, that may tell us we have some instability, we have some weakness in the hips, we might even have some weakness in the arch or some of those foot muscles. It's important for walking too, because we still need stability and control and strength at the hips, at the arch, with every foot strike against the ground. I'm going to show you if that is really difficult for you. I'm going to show you one thing that we can work on for that. So okay. So line up against a wall. We're going to press our knee into the wall here. Keeping pressure of our knee against the wall, you're going to sit back into a little single leg squat. Now, this is pretty hard on its own, so I'm going to show you a modification if this feels really hard or really wobbly. So it's kind of hard to see because the computer's angled, but my hips are nice and square. They're pointed forwards. And then I'm sitting back into a single leg squat. I'm going to show you from the side as well. But if this is really wobbly, give yourself the same thing, but give yourself a little toe down on the ground. Same thing. What you should feel is you should feel this outside of your butt, your lateral glutes, really working here. And you can see where that's kind of working that single leg squat. Let me just show you what that movement looks like from the side as well. Doing a single leg squat there. All right, we're rolling along to the next one, and then I'll open up for any questions about those two after this next one. So our next test in this battery is a side plank with hip abduction. So this looks at how well can we load our lateral glutes, so the outside of our hips, particularly the glute med. It does look at your obliques, so like your core strength and stability on that side. But you'll see in a second, this is kind of a next level up of a side plank. So it really looks at the glute med. Now, the glute med is the muscle that sits kind of here on your hips, and it plays a role when we are on one leg. It keeps the other side of our pelvis level. So if I'm standing here right now, my hips are pretty level. If my glute med on this side was really weak or not as strong, it would be hard for me to keep this other side of my hip up. And we'd see with walking a little more of a hip drop potentially. And the same thing with running. When we run, we get a hip drop each way. So the test, I'm going to show you two options. So I think the first option is a really good place to start. It's different than the video that's in that on that blog. But the video that's on the blog, it's very hard. So you're going to start with your bottom knee down. Elbow is underneath our shoulder. And first we're going to press up into a side plank. Once we feel like we're aligned there, we're going to lift that top leg and we're going to hold. Ideally, we should be able to hold this for 30 seconds. Now, if you do that and it's a breeze, then you should hold this for 30 seconds. Now, there's a lot of ways to kind of that our body will find to make this easier. So I'm going to show you some of the things to watch out for. So trying to pick out the angles. So one thing people will do is they'll rotate kind of their trunk forward or open up this way. So we want to make sure shoulders are stacked on top of each other. The other thing that I'll see is people will set themselves up so that their hip here, like we're in some hip flexion or our hips are bent there. We want hip and knee in line with each other. And then the last thing I want you to look out for is when we come up here and we lift this leg up, we should be lifted at that hip, but we shouldn't be arched through our low back. So make sure this heel is lifted, but we're not extended or feeling this in your back. You should really just feel it in those lateral glutes. Any questions about either of those two tests?
I must say, the one with the knee off the ground in total side plank position, I've done this. It's really hard. I had to laugh when you said it's a little hard. To me, it's really hard. I can do about 10. Well, up and I didn't hold it, but anyway.
Yeah, it's that's why I would start with the first one and get solid at that first. This is another easy one because the exercise to work on this is just to work on your side planks. if you go to do the first option with your knee down and lifting the leg is too hard, just start with a side plank with both knees there, and just build up your endurance there. So side planks are great because they work our core a little bit, they work our glutes. But yeah, the second one is it's really hard. So start with first.
But they're great. All good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 more tests. Our next one is a single heel raise. So our calf is made up of 2 muscles. It's our gastroc and our soleus. That muscle group is one of the most important muscle groups when we think about running. It's really important with walking as well. With running, that complex needs to be able to absorb 6.5 to 8 times our body weight. And with walking, it's a little bit less, but we still need our calf to push off. So it's still super important. I'm going to show you what the test looks like, and then I'm going to share my screen because we have normative values based on age and gender that you should be able to hit. So you want to make sure you are holding on to a wall. So my hands are on the wall right now. This shouldn't be a balance exercise. Then keeping this knee straight, we're going to press through the big toe straight up towards the ceiling. You're going to go all the way up, all the way down. And you're going to do reps until you lose height of the heel raise or you start using momentum. Let me show you from the side what that looks like. So if you start bending the knee to get up like that, or we're rocking your body, so it should be pretty strictly straight up, straight down. And then you'll compare on both sides. Let me share that screen. The knee should be like pretty straight during the heel raise. I think like it shouldn't be uncomfortably locked, but your knee should be straight. It should just be pressing through your big toe and all calf. All right, let me share my screen again. So here's our chart. This is another one, I would say many people, many people when they come in to see me are not able to hit these numbers. They're pretty high because these are more endurance-based muscles and we use them a lot. So this is another one. Test yourself, see where you're at. And this chart is in that link that I posted in the chat. If you're not where your age and gender should be, start first, and you can do one of 2 things. So you can do single heel raises. If you're able to do, let's say, like 8 to 10 single leg heel raises, but then you get really tired, then your exercise should be just doing sets of single heel raises on both sides. If doing single is really difficult, like you get 2 and it's impossible, do double leg heel raises to start. So same thing form wise, but we're going up with 2 and build up to being able to do, multiple sets of 25 heel raises, 2 legs, and then you should be able to progress and start working on your single leg calf raises. This is another one that's really easy to integrate into your day when you're cooking dinner, or, okay, every time I brush my teeth, I do 3 sets of 12 single heel raises. That's more than most people are doing. So there's ways to make it bite-sized and doable. And it doesn't feel like another like really insurmountable task on top of your training as well. And then the last one, we've got a single leg bridge test. So this is a quick look at our glute strength and our glute stability. We're gonna set this up. Okay, so both hands are going to be up in the air here. You're going to bridge up, and we want to make sure we're not bridging so that our back is arched. We want to stop when we feel like our trunk is nice and kind of aligned there. Then we're going to kick one leg out, and we should be able to hold for 30 seconds while keeping a level pelvis. So we don't want that hip to drop. We should be able to keep pelvis level and hold for 30 seconds. When you're doing this, if you notice you get a hamstring cramp or you feel it in your back, sorry, I lost train of thought because I read the question at the same time. So if you're like, you get a hamstring cramp or you feel it in your back, that tells us that we're maybe getting a little too much hamstring or like low back muscles that are working instead of our glute max. The way we work this is either double leg bridges or single leg bridges. So if you do this and the single leg feels impossible, then same thing as the calf raises. Start with double leg bridges and do repetitions there. The biggest thing I feel like I notice or I have to kind of talk to people about is making sure when we do a bridge, we're not kind of overdoing it. Because if you look at me there, like my back is arched there, and that's just gonna make my back cranky. So bridges there. If single leg feels like you can do it, but you just can't hold it for very long before something cramps, or you can't really keep your pelvis level, then you can just do a single leg bridge to work on this. I really like single leg bridge, one knee behind or held up to your chest. And then we're going to drive through the glute to come up into a single leg bridge. All right. That is our skills checklist. What questions do we have? Let's see. There is a concern that this activity will build calf muscle. What activity? I have a, if you're willing to answer, what that question, just elaborate a little bit on that question. That would be helpful.
Probably knowing Mel, he's a very fast runner, and Mel is probably, thinking of during running. He has really strong legs, very fast runner. Probably about a three-hour marathoner is Mel who asked the question.
So Mel, I think you're asking if heel raises will build calf muscle. It will, and that's a good thing. We need calf muscle to run, so heel raises will build calf muscle, but that's the point, because like I said, that muscle complex needs to absorb a lot of our body weight. So I think one of the biggest things I see in my runners, especially like male runners, kind of as we get into like mid-30s and older, the biggest thing I see is like calf and Achilles and foot issues, because men are more likely to lose the calf power than women. So it's definitely really important to do those, and it's good that they're going to build muscle. Question.
I have one that here Arlene asks, the knee should not be locked during heel raises, right?
Oh yes, I answered that. Yeah, so with the calf raise,
did.
with the calf raise test, your knee should be straight. So it shouldn't be like locked so it's uncomfortable, but your knee should be fully straight, not bent.
Got it.
These side planks and glute bridges look like maybe core strengthening. Is that true? Yeah, so side planks are they work our core a little bit. That variation works our core. It's nice because it works our obliques, our core, which is part of our core, and our hip abductors, which is it's a glute muscle. And then the bridges it works our glute max, so another muscle that makes up our kind of glute complex. Yes, I mean, this battery of tests it's nice because most of them you can do that thing as your treatment exercise if you feel like it's different side to side. I mean, like the step, I showed you a variation that you can work on for the step down test, but you could also just work on step downs from a lower step if that's really hard for you. Yes, we put this together because we felt like these things are key for like our long-term health of our runners and walkers. And I think it's all about making it, like I said, bite-sized and doable. So this is just a snapshot of what everyone should be doing at a minimum. Like we should do this a few times a week. What we should really do is actual strength training. But that's kind of that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I think that the basic principle is like, if we're doing our strength training, we're doing our mobility, we're doing stuff with weights, then all of these tests should be doable. This is kind of a foundation if you aren't doing that stuff already. But eventually, like if we want to stay healthy and decrease our injury risk, strength training is the best thing for us as runners and walkers too.
Yeah. Bertina asked if you could put your info on the chat, and I'm going to post it on Facebook as well. So they'll have all that on Facebook, on our Facebook. Oh, there you go.
Oh, the exercise I showed? Did you know? did you know that was, did I say that was a Captain Morgan? So anyway, the exercise I showed you against the wall, I call a Captain Morgan. And if you don't have a ball, so I'll show you guys. Hold on one second. Let me get a ball and I'll show you what you have. Two options with that. One has a ball and one without. Okay, so Captain Morgan is this one I showed you after the step down test. And it's really good for single leg stability. It's hard, but it's one of my favorite things for my runners and walkers. So with the ball, we hold this knee into the wall and then we do that single leg squat. We can do it with a ball like this, or we can do it with one of those big yoga balls. It's a little bit harder that way. You don't have a ball, you can do it just like I showed you, and you're just pressing this knee into the wall, and same thing. It's going to feel a little bit different, but you'll still get the gist of it. I've also had some people try like a pillow against a wall, a foam roller against the wall. But if you don't have any of those things, you can just use your knee. Any other questions? Okay. So I did put my email in there. If you have individual questions or more detailed questions, feel free to email me. We will have a recovery zone at the Dodgers Stadium meetup. I won't be there, but there will be two other PTs that are part of our run activation team. And they'll have recovery boots and they'll be there to answer questions about injuries as well. But you're always welcome to email me at that email that I dropped in the chat.
Morris had said thank you so much for the session. And so did Mel. So thanks, you guys. I did post a Facebook post with your email and the link to your checklist that will take you to your website and all of that on our Facebook site, LA Roadrunners group page on Facebook. So anybody can get that link right now. It's up there right now. And Jamie Sue already liked that link. So we're up and rolling. And thank you so much. We are still recording. If anyone has any further questions about issues that they personally have physically, little aches or pains that you want to ask Kathleen about, please do so right now. Otherwise, I will stay on after Kathleen leaves or whatever, and I'll answer just general questions about training. While you're thinking of your questions, let me just say, shocking as it may sound, as of after this weekend, we only have 7 more build weeks. Keep in mind, there are like several taper weeks, but we only have 7 more build weeks till the LA Marathon. We're not just talking Rose Bowl half, we're talking LA Marathon. So, we're going to be obviously jumping up in mileage. And, make sure that you don't turn just a little imbalance issue that might be a day injury into a month injury. And, talk to Kathleen. How was that for motivation? Any questions, hopefully? Personal or otherwise? It's amazing how no one from the Roadrunners ever gets injured, because actually, I have heard studies that suggest that runners have the same amount of injuries as non-runners, but the severity of their injuries are actually less because we happen to be stronger. And that includes walkers and run walkers and all of you folk who do marathons. And I see you shaking your head. Yes, you've heard of those studies as well. And they've come from down the years. It's not just one. So very interesting stuff. And
I have
motivating
a
to keep
question.
going. There you go.
I have a question. Miss O'Neill, excuse me. My name is Oscar, and I've been training with LA Roadrunners since week 1, but I have this issue where I have a heel pain, and I think I mentioned it to Coach David in the past. Took some time off. I do lacrosse ball underneath the soles of my foot. I do the machine gun, the massage gun all up and down my cab. I've ran with softer shoes. I've ran even bought some insoles to have some arch support, but somehow it's still there. Like I feel like it's one of those nagging injuries that kind of just linger around. Now I was wondering, I don't know, I joined the chat about 6 minutes late, so I don't know if you went over some of those exercises earlier, but I saw some of the ones you were mentioning as well. Do those work also for like plantar fasciitis, to strengthening the calf and stuff like that?
Yeah, so typically with plantar fascia pain, the rolling and the insoles, those can all help offload pain in the short term. So you're doing some of the right things. The piece of the puzzle that often gets missed is actually doing a lot of calf strengthening, because the plantar fascia is just a band of tissue. It's not a muscle. It sits under the bottom of your foot. And if the tiny foot muscles in the bottom of your feet and your calf aren't strong enough, then the plantar fascia will kind of wind up and get tight, because it's trying to act as a stabilizer to help, because those other two things are weak. So I would test yourself on the calf raise test and see where you're at and how it compares side to side. And I would do some calf strengthening. Calf stretching is good too. So like your wall stretch that I'm sure you probably know. like our wall stretch here and here is good. But I think the piece of the puzzle that's often missing is actual calf strengthening too. And if it doesn't clear up, there's a lot we can do in PT to kind of dial into the really tiny muscles too. But start with just doing heel raises and see if that helps.
Okay, thank you very much.
By the way, for all of you, if you scroll your cursor across the screen, you can click on the mute button, and that will enable you to talk, because a lot of you are just muted right now. And or you could click on either the more button and then the chat button and type things into the chat box, or there you go. So you could type it in or just talk.
Hi, I have a question.
Hmm.
This is my first year with the Roadrunners, and I was feeling a sharp pain in my thigh. So I took a break. I've been resting my leg. I've been doing low impact cycling, and I went for a short run yesterday and I felt fine. But I don't know how to come back from an injury since this is the first time that it's happened. So I guess it's a two-parter. How can I come back, little by little? I know I've heard coach tell other people, just do a short 15-20 minute run. And then, at what point can I get back to the schedule? I know not to rush myself, but, I also don't want to be unprepared for the marathon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, good question. I might have missed this. How much time did you take off have you taken off from running?
About a month.
Okay. And you've done one run and it felt okay?
Yes, yesterday I did a 15-minute run.
Where on your thigh, where was your pain?
It
also,
was,
if you want to take it offline, we can chat more, but
yeah, oh no, I don't mind. It was on my, the middle of the top of my thigh.
okay. And then how long did it bother you for before you stopped? Like how many weeks or runs?
Maybe about a week and a half.
Okay. Do you remember, was it something that got worse as you went? Is it something that warmed up once you started running?
Once I started running, it went away, but when I stopped, then I felt it. And then the last time I ran, I felt it for like 2 days. So that's what triggered me to stop.
Okay, good. So it's hard to know for sure. It sounds like it was mostly like soft tissue, muscular. In terms of, returning to running, I would start like if you were running 3 days a week or if you're running 4 days a week before you got injured, like look at your cumulative mileage week to week. And I'm sure Coach David has talked about this a lot, but as we get back into this, we don't want to all of a sudden increase our load by 50%. The general rule of thumb is a 10% rule week to week. So you can look in that. I personally like looking at that in terms of like minutes running, but you can also do miles too. And I would okay, if we did 15 minutes for the first run, give yourself a day between each one at least. And then you can add 5 minutes and see how it goes. But you wouldn't want to jump like right back into your long run this weekend. I think let's give yourself a day to rest between each run. And over the next couple of weeks, you still have a lot of time before the race. So you have time to smartly and intelligently build back up. I think Coach David can probably really help you modify your plan or give you some guidance. But I tell my patients okay, we're just going to increase by 5 minutes per run. And once I feel like they can do a 60-minute run and they feel good and they don't have pain, and then we can think about starting to increase our load again. But just make sure you're mindful of that week to week increase. So not increasing by more than the rule is 10% when we're getting back into running in this early bit, it's a little hard to stick to that. I don't know, David, what are your thoughts on that? Sometimes I find like if we're going from zero minutes the week before, like it's going to be more than a 10% jump in the first week and the second week, but we just want to pay attention.
I would say everything you just said, but my only question, along with all the questions you already asked, would be how many miles, and it may take you a while to figure this out, in which case you could put it in an email to me, but how many miles did you do on the last week where you ran a full week unencumbered by your injury? What would that be? You could kind of imagine, I find it's a fair ballpark figure if you subtract about 10% off that number each week. So that would be like, well, it's not 40%, it would be less than that, because it would be 10% of 10% of 10% of 10%, whatever that comes out to be. So what is that, like 35% off of the total volume that you did on your last peak biggest week? And then you can, like she said, like Kathleen said, come back at about 10% or even a little more each week. And in about 6 weeks, you'll be back up to everybody, and you could pretty much do most of the weekend run, cut it a little shorter. You could miss the out and back that we do at the beginning, or maybe the end 4 miles or something like that we do at the end. I'll be glad to talk to you about it. We can figure out a really good plan. And so no biggie, you're good.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that from both of you. And I'll send you an email, Coach Dave. So
great. Yeah, David L, the @ at mccourtfoundation.org, all one word, mccourtfoundation.org.
Okay, great. Thank you.
There you go. Sure. And don't worry. Yep, sounds like you're going to be okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And then I saw April put a question in the chat box about arch supports, whether I recommend them. April said, would you recommend arch supports, or is this considered a crutch? That it would be better to strengthen something instead, or some combination? It's a hard question to answer. There are some foot types that really just need an orthotic, custom orthotic, but there aren't not many people fall into that bucket where their foot structure just absolutely needs an orthotic. They can be beneficial for certain things, like short term. There's actually some evidence that it can help with acute plantar fascia pain short term. There are a handful of instances where I'll recommend someone try just a kind of an over-the-counter orthotic short term, but I don't recommend them often, because most, if not like most of those things, except for those couple foot types that I mentioned that we don't need to dive into, most of these things can get better with strengthening. So I'll kind of, like, if anything, recommend an orthotic to kind of help someone get over some acute pain or get through a race or get through a long run. But oftentimes my goal is not, okay, we are just going to be in this. I'm going to recommend this insole and you're going to be in it forever. That being said, if you're someone who's been wearing orthotics and you love them and you've been wearing them for 15 years, that's okay. And if it works for you, don't ditch them just because I said that.
I have a question. This is Erin. I've been running with the group for like maybe a couple months now. And a couple weeks ago, my hamstring got really tight, and it's just one hamstring, and I cannot stretch out of it. And it's starting to pull on my knee. And I was just wondering, like, if that means I have an injury, if it's only on one side, or how to handle that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's some irritation of the hamstring muscle, or maybe where the tendon inserts, like behind the knee. If it's one side, then okay, we need to give that one side a little more attention. There's a lot of different things that could kind of contribute or play into this. I'll show you kind of one thing that you can start with. Most like soft tissue, muscle, tendon injuries need to be like loaded with strengthening exercises versus, you know, I think too often we're like, oh, I'm just going to stretch the hell out of this and it'll go away. But oftentimes that thing is getting irritated or crimping or tight because it's a little bit weaker than the other side. So try this, and if it doesn't get better, send me an email. So I would just start with 2 legs, what I call a hamstring bridge. So if you can see me from the side, we're not like as bent as a bridge. We got a little knee bend and our heels are dug in, and then you're bridging up and holding there. So if you do this, you'll feel like a lot more activation through your hamstrings in addition to your glutes. Start and just do holds there because that's going to load the hamstring, but it's usually not super irritating. If that feels easy, then you can build to a single leg hold. So we're kind of bent here, like we're not straight, we're not 90 degrees, we're kind of somewhere in the middle there. And we can kind of build up a single leg hold there. Obviously, if that doesn't clear it up, then it probably just needs a little bit more of a deeper dive, but try that for a handful of days, 5 to 7 days, and see if that helps.
Wait, and more reps on the bad one, or still do it equally?
Do it equally, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty good.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? All good stuff. I confess that in dealing with plantar fascia issues, I forgot about strengthening the calf. So all good for me. I'm learning or remembering. So all good. Anyone else question verbally or in the chat? Going once? Going twice? We'll stay on and just in case there are any LA Roadrunner questions. But any more questions for Kathleen? Because these are all great questions you guys always have every week. Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Okay. We are still recording. But I do want to thank Kathleen so much for all her knowledge and her time and being a part of this. Like I said, her information, her contact email is already on our Facebook site. I already posted it. And the link to the skills checklist that she kind of went through and pictures and whatever they have on their website is already up in that same little post. And so we're all good. Anyone else really quick, last chance? Okay. Kathleen, thank you so much. I'll remove you from the spotlight. And if you want to hang on or have a great evening, please feel free to do so. I will hang on and answer anybody, anyone else has a question. Anyone have any questions for me? Any Roadrunner questions, issues, or whatever? All
right. Thank you, guys. Yeah, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, like David said, and then you can find Evolution in person at the meetup at Dodger Stadium in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Right. Kathleen, thank you very much. Take care. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks. Good. Good. Anybody else? Any questions for me? Or shall we call it a night?
I have a question. Thanks.
Sure. April, hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
Operating under the idea of like just getting volume.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, I'm a walk group,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband's in a slower walk group. That's just what it is. So if is it a waste of time, like just to put it crudely, to walk slower than my typical pace, or is that still does everything count? Or is it if you're going, if it's not getting your heart rate up in a particular level, if it's not taxing you to some degree, then you're just wasting time.
Well, I'm going to make it way more complicated than it probably needs to be. But I assume you may during the midweek want to slow it down, and that may be the reason for your question is walk with your husband, and we all gain a whole huge list of physiological changes from really pretty much any pace. So yes, you could theoretically slow it down. However, the one big, huge caveat to this is when you're doing speed work, whenever it says like T pace for threshold, I pace for interval, or R pace for repetition, any one of those three paces, you would probably be on schedule 1. So I don't think schedule 1 has any R or I pace, but it does certainly have threshold pace, the T pace. We just couldn't fit the whole word threshold in those little boxes, but for those efforts, where it says T pace or half marathon race pace, that's where you really want to get your heart rate higher. That's what it's all about, and really go for it at your high ability level, not race pace, but up there, so that one I would definitely say go for it. The slower paces, if you want to do it, slow it down a little bit. Chances are the easy pace range with your husband may overlap a little bit, so maybe there's some middle ground that you could both do, which would even be more efficient for both of you. But yeah, you do engage slower, I should say, you recruit dormant muscles from going slower than you're accustomed to going. So maybe, and that makes you stronger. The more muscles you recruit, the more muscles you're firing, the stronger you are. There are two ways to build strength. One is, doing bodybuilding, like Kathleen was talking about, standing against the wall, doing calf raises or whatever, strength training, or recruiting dormant muscles to start firing. That's another way to build strength. So going with your husband may build some really slower muscles to build strength, all the while you're building all these, physiological changes. But to really raise the bar, you'd really need to just go for it. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
And that would be true of runners, walkers like you guys, anybody. We all have the same physiology, we all the same deal. It's all about heart rate. Mechanics are different, but it's all about heart rate.
So what are junk miles that I just saw in the chat? I'm not familiar.
Junk miles are what college students call and keep in mind, college students will do 85% to 80% of everything they do, they call junk miles. And the reason that junk miles are the same as that's a huge percentage of their work is junk miles. That's what they call it. That's what we call easy pace. People call zone 2. People call conversational pace, where you can just kind of run and chat and talk and tell jokes, and you're not really aware of you're not doing this kind of thing. You're not aware of your pauses for breathing. You're not doing that. You're just kind of talking away like we're talking now. And those are referred to as junk miles because, let's face it, college students want to really go fast and really kick in those fast twitch muscle fibers and go for it. And that's why they refer to it as junk miles, because they feel like they're wasting their time, even though 80 to 85% of everything they do, pro athletes, same deal, are what they refer to as junk miles. There you go.
Got it.
So they're not so junky. They're critical. That's where you build endurance. That's endurance training. Those easy pace, zone 2, that's the deal. There you go. Any other questions, April or anybody else? Great questions, by the way. Anyone else? And we are recording them, so people gain, who are online and watching this recording later on, gain from your questions. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Oh, wait, I didn't look at the chat. Maybe anything there? No, I don't see anything more in the chat. Oh, Mallow is saying, I call it junk miles. Yeah, that's where the term came from, is college students. And yeah, good. A bunch of people saying thanks, Kathleen. That was nice. Excellent. I'm sure she saw those. Anybody else going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Well, with that, I'm going to kick the thing off. And as everybody turns off, if anybody has like a personal question, do feel free to send me an email to davidl@mccourtfoundation.org. And the person who was injured and took off for 4 weeks, also, if you could tell me what schedule you're on, I could tell you what week to go back to, and that'll make life really easy for you to know what to do. And anyone else with injuries or whatever, feel free to send me an email, or Kathleen or whatever. And we hope to see all of you either Saturday, and I'll be in Santa Monica, or in Newport Beach on Sunday. And but Griffith Park, I was in Griffith Park with that group for 15 years. And I don't think they need me there anymore. They're probably sick of me in Griffith Park at this point, after 15 years of me being there. But I love that group in Griffith Park. It's a great place to run. And all our groups will be at the Dodger Stadium meetup in 2 Saturdays from now. Not this week, not the week after, but I believe it's the Saturday after that. 2 Saturdays, then we have our taper. So it's really kind of 3 Saturdays from now, if I'm not mistaken, if you include this Saturday, 2 days from now. At any rate, Bertina, thank you for your thank you. And everybody, I will hopefully see you guys all very much. And April, thank you. And Mel, happy to keep learning. Mel, you're amazing. Keep running, man. You're doing great. And everybody, you guys are all doing well. You're getting it on, getting it going. Carla, thank you. And you have a great evening as well, and Paul as well. And I'm just looking at the chat, scrolling by, and as you guys click off, I want to say again, thanks to all of you for joining in, and we'll see you all in person. Oh, and remind me, if any of you want to do a video gait analysis, I bring my little tablet each week. I have it in my car, so ask me, because I always forget about it, and I'm always getting asked other questions. Ask me for a video gait analysis. I'll just video you running, and we'll play it back, and I freeze frame and draw in lines and all that stuff. You can find an awful lot of imbalance issues, like Kathleen was talking about, that you can work on doing some of the things that she was talking about, and more. So, and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, with that, I bid you all a good night. Paul, I see you waving. Mariana, thank you. And good night, everybody.
Good night, Coach. See you Saturday.
Gil, we'll see you Saturday. Good night. Thanks. Thanks for always being there, Gil.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Saturday we're running, I saw, not on the bird work, just on the way back on the bird work. Well,
yes and no. Actually, there's a slight change to that route. You guys will be going under the pier. Keep in mind,
on the way back.
On the way back, and you guys are taking the stairs up. That's group 0 through 4. You'll take the stairs up, and it'll be optional for all the other groups. They can just take the pier back up, instead. And I do know there's a race that a lot of people are doing, starting down a little farther, but that race is on the street. It's not on the bike path. So, I mean, or the walking path, and we'll be on the walking path. We won't be on the street. Going
Yeah,
into
because
we'll go almost to Venice, and right before we hit Venice, we turn around and go back.
yeah, I saw. But but getting there to the Venice area, just
Mhm.
before Venice, I saw like the turn where the playground is. I think is where we're turning around.
Right.
Do we
That
run on the street
playground
first?
boat.
Yeah.
What's that?
Do we run on the street first, all the way there till the water station area, usually, or do we run on the bird walk?
You guys will be running on the dirt path, the sort of the boardwalk up above, and then down the pier to the water station at the circle by Casa del Mar, and then out that kind of mile more to where that children's playground is, right where the
And then we come back.
turns, and then you just go back to the water table.
And then to the golf course.
And then you guys, 034, this is the Santa Monica course, if anyone is listening to this, the Santa Monica only. And then you guys continue down under the pier, and then you go to the next children's playground, and that's where you cut through the parking lot and kind of circle up the stairs over PCH.
And then
the boardwalk back, or the dirt path back.
And then do we run to the golf course? Or is that before?
Then you guys run to the golf course and around the golf course, and then back down and over to 7th. Because you know me in Adelaide, I love 7th to Adelaide, and then back the finale is coming down Adelaide to the totem pole. Because I think it's important to kiss the totem pole and for good luck.
I know. So we'll do it on Saturday. Yeah.
There you go. And I like the downhill at Adelaide. It's just a great view. And I just think it's a great street to finish a run on. And I think most of you guys agree. I don't know. Let me know. If you have any suggestions.
The stairs, the only thing would be the stairs. I think that's a lot of stairs. I like them, but I think we'll have to, after the stairs, take it a little easier going down to the golf course.
Oh, yeah. Take it easy to the golf course. Yeah. You're going up Alta all the way to the golf course, and there'll be a water table like at the golf course at Alta, and then you're going around the loop to the water station again, and then coming straight back down.
Yeah, the regular course of the golf course, the way we usually go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'll see you on Saturday morning then.
Good. And for you guys going up those stairs to get back to the top up above the cliff, on the dirt path by Ocean Avenue, just walk them slowly. I don't want you to run them. Don't run up those stairs. Don't do them briskly. Just walk up those stairs.
We're walking them. There's too many stairs to run, I think.
Right.
I don't want to lose half my team going up.
Right. And then when you start running again, just slowly build into it, just slowly get going again.
Yep. Will do.
And the other groups will all take the pier. That wasn't on the schedule, the route, the map online. But yeah.
It will be fun.
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think we'll miss some people. I think CIM is this weekend too, so we'll probably have a lot of people there.
CIM is this weekend, and so is that Christmas run in.
Oh yeah, I heard
goes
some
into Venice.
The one in Santa Monica, the holiday thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts right where the Santa Monica Classic started, but it goes the other direction. It goes out into Venice, not toward, the pier.
I know.
Yeah.
It will be fun. We can always run and join the race while we're running.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe to get a medal.
Because I think they start a little later than when we start.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think they start an hour later. We'll be probably running by them, the starting line. They'll be on the street, of course, the side street. We'll be on the walking path, closer to the beach. But yeah, you'll probably see them lining up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Coach.
Great. Thank you, Gil. We'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon. Bye.
Great. Oh, I guess I should stop recording. Here we
Yep.
go, which I'm going to do right now.